Okay, so this video is going to be about using the square root property to solve a quadratic equation. Here's an example that I've written. The first thing you want to do is try to get whatever is being squared in the equation totally by itself on one side or the other. So the easiest way to do that for this equation is to start by adding x squared to both sides. And that way we get just 18 left on the left side because these equal 0, so they cancel. And then we have just x squared on the right side. Okay, so now that we have what's being squared totally by itself on this side of the equation, I can get rid of that exponent by taking the square root. And the reason why I can do that is because squares and square roots, just like addition and subtraction or multiplication and division, are opposites. These are opposites as well, so they undo each other. So when I take the square root of something that's being squared, basically those operations cancel out. So all I'm left with on the right side is just the x that was left underneath. And then on the left side, I have the square root of 18. Well, the other thing to keep in mind is when you're taking square roots to solve, is that there's two numbers that square to give you a positive. They could either both be negative or they could both be positive. So we're going to put a plus or minus to indicate that both the positive and the negative square root of 18, when I square them, are going to give me a positive. Okay, so the other thing we want to do is simplify what's under the radical. So let's think about what our perfect square numbers are. So we have 1 squared equals 1. Well, that doesn't really change the value of anything to divide it by 1. So instead, let's think about, okay, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and you've got 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, and so on. That's probably more than you need, but keep this list nearby to keep in mind that these are your special numbers that are perfect squares. Okay, so what that means is when I'm thinking about factors of 18, I want to think about what's the biggest one of those factors that happens to be on my list of perfect squares. So I've got 1 times 18, I've got 2 times 9 gives me 18, and also 3 times 6 gives me 18. That's all of my factors, and the only one that appears on this list is 9. So that means I want to rewrite the square root of 18 as the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. Okay? And the reason why we're doing that is because the square root of 9 is 3. So in other words, we can reduce the square root of 18 as 3 times the square root of 2. So for our final answer here, we're going to say x is equal to positive or negative 3 times the square root of 2. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes if it's multiple choice, you might see it written as positive 3 square root of 2 and negative 3 square root of 2. Just know that this is the same thing as writing plus or minus 3 root 2. Good luck.